Rick and Morty the anime is an absolute abomination of a show. A show so bad, in fact, that it actually gave me a literal migraine that I had to take the day off for. I truthfully think that this show might be a form of torture, and I will try my best to break down this cluttered mess of a show to try to make sense of it all and what went wrong. So what's poppin' it, Shaman? And on my channel, I usually talk about things that I like, such as cartoons, animes, comic books. So you think a brand new show based on a cartoon that got turned into an anime and even has its own fun comic book series would really be in my wheelhouse and I would absolutely love. And hey, I thought the same thing, foolish as I am, until I watched that first episode and realized probably doing the Tide Pod challenge would be a better investment in my time. I just watched the first 4 episodes and honestly, I cannot do it anymore. Understand that I came into this show with the middle of the road expectations. I mean, I do like Rick and Morty and I watch every season, but I wasn't going in letting that be any bias towards this show. I was totally happy if the show wanted to go its own route and do its own thing, but in its own fun sci-fi adventure way with Rick and Morty aesthetic. If anything, for my own interest, I really wanted this show to do good, so that way they would take the chance of doing more anime shows like this, like a Samurai Jack or a Megas XLR anime. So even coming in with a standard expectation, they couldn't even reach that threshold. Speaking of issues, the voice acting, it's bad.
This is terrible, Summer!
Well, at least the English version is. The Japanese version is a little bit better and seems like they put a little more effort into it. But this show's primary first language is English, so that's the version that I will be reviewing. So going off the basis of that, I also want to say I don't want to take anything from the voice actors. These are the same voice actors that you'll probably hear in many anime dubs. So you know that they can act. They can do it in other shows. They could have done it for this one. But sadly, I feel like even these talented people did not have any type of direction. And I have a seeking suspicion that they might not have had many takes either, as all the voice acting, excluding the president, because I think they actually did somewhat of a good job, everything else sounded so very low energy and effort. It was so boring and bland and generic, it made it a slog to sit through, especially when it comes to the exposition dumps, because it made something that's already kind of boring even worse to sit through. There's no witty humor or great performance for you to enjoy while listening to this gargle. And even when you're sitting through it, you realize there's an even deeper problem that goes into the writing and dialogue that the characters are having. For example, you could see Rick talking to a whole nother Rick and they're like, hey, I was gonna be on my way. And Rick's like, well, I'll let you on your way if I could punch you a few times real quick. And then they'll start fighting. And that's the level of dialogue that you're gonna get with this show. No cleverness that you know from Rick and Morty, no in-depth or deeper dialogue, just bland, one moment, then this happens type of storytelling. And it's even more apparent when you look at when the show tries to do comedy or lack thereof, as the rhythm and delivery just never land. It is oddly paced with music constantly playing and any other rule of comedy that most people would know trying to make this type of show. And like I said in the beginning, I was totally open if the show wanted to go do its own thing and not be a comedy. But the sad thing is that it wants to be a comedy, but it doesn't know how to. So maybe the voice acting, the dialogue, and the comedy are all bad. Okay, but maybe the unique animation style and action scenes could still be enjoyable. I mean, the animation style they picked is cute. I wouldn't have maybe gone for it for this show, but it kind of reminds me of those comedic slice of life anime. So I think it could work for this show. And is that a 3D model of Space Beth? Oh no. Yep, that's right. So Adult Swim has not learned its lessons from its mistakes from my last video that I talked about from their massive disappointment that I covered on this channel, being Ninja Kamui, a show that looked really promising in the beginning with its 2D animation, just to get revealed in 3 episodes later that you would be hit with CGI for the rest of it. And that thing that they have for that show is apparent here as they try to sneak it on in and think nobody would notice. Now, as a 3D modeled character myself who works in mixed media with all my little 2D counterparts, I'm not opposed to the use of CGI when done correctly, just like shows like Bucci the Rock or even movies like Premiere. They use and combine 2D and 3D as a mixed media approach to enhance its comedy, action, and storytelling. But pay attention to the keyword I use there. It enhances the experience. Adult Swim's animation studio sadly has been using it the wrong way, pretty much as a crutch and a cost-cutting measure. I mean, we start the fight in a 2D animation, then go to 3D, then then back to 2D, then a little more 3D, and then back to 2D once again. Just totally jarring to watch and totally ruins the whole flow and experience of an action scene. And then ends the fight with, "I ain't gonna kill you good, I'm a mother too," highlighting the bad writing and dialogue once again. And even when they go full 2D for the action scenes, they're not much better, because just like with the show, the pacing and timing of everything is just so off. They have a cool, amazing fight where it's two Ricks fighting, and every time they punch each other, they go into a different dimension, which is really cool and something I would like to see in the original cartoon show. So it's cool that they had the idea to do it here, but because the pacing is so bad, from it going go to stop, then go to stop, then add in some bad dialogue, and then go again. It truly feels like you're stuck in the red light, green light section of Squid Games, how much you have to stop, go, and slow down for this thing. And it does feel like there's a Mozambique pointing to the backside of your head while you're watching this show too. Really giving you that real authentic Squid Games feel. And what really disappoints me is because Rick and Morty does have great action and fight scenes in it. So thinking of it being an anime form could just boost it to a whole nother level when you get other people to touch on your show and see what they can do. But at the end of the day, this match made in heaven is truthfully just a disappointment. And as you can see, it is literally one problem after another problem after another problem. And a lot of these problems can be fixed with time, with restructuring, with relooking at things. We've seen a lot of shows that have got better throughout it. Shoot, Black Clover was a show that a lot of people didn't watch, and as soon as you get to like the 20th episode, it starts kicking in. I should know, I stuck it out till then. And that's a great example, because Black Clover had a rough start, but there was something even me watching it could tell that it had that this show doesn't. That no matter what Black Clover was going to get better with, when this show, it fundamentally cannot. And that being the story and the pacing of this show. Now see, this is the actual problem of the show that actually gave me my migraine. This show is so convoluted, so uninteresting, and all over the place. It is such a mess to try to watch. And if you don't believe me, understand in the first episodes, we're introduced to two separate plot lines, one being Rick doing his whole thing against the Galactic Armada or whatever, and then with Morty going into a VR world that has the multiverse in it, while also time traveling that has different endings, and we go into different points during those timelines, from the future to the past, back to the future, going further in the future, and then back to the past once again. While all this, we're watching it all simultaneously in all the different multiverses and timelines.
Okay, you lost me.
And the only reason being that I could see why they wanted to add this whole bizarre VR thing for these 3 episodes just to drop it later is so we can get introduced to Morty's imaginary or may not be so imaginary girlfriend, who may be alive in some universes but may not exist in his universe. But we also don't know her motivations or her as a character, and she may or may not be an alien sometimes. It's just all so stupid. And I think that's the perfect word to encapsulate the show, that it thinks it's so smart that it ends up becoming stupid. It thinks it's being mysterious when it's just being confusing. It thinks it's saying a message, but all it comes off is low effort and lazy. It thinks it's so different in a good way that it ends up being one of the most garbage shows that you could ever watch. And they do this whole VR bit for 2 to 3 episodes where it's like, if you would have just took this out, you probably would have ended up with a little bit of a better show. To start your season with that is so convoluted. It makes it way more confusing than it needs to be. I mean, imagine if the first episode of Rick and Morty was the one where they're stuck in the VR world, and that's your introduction to Rick and Morty. It'd be very confusing, and even they did that episode a lot better. The thing is to saying that it's not a good first episode in introduction for your new standalone series. It's not a main plot point like in Sword Art Online where they're literally trapped in this world with a VR headset. It is a bit that we're going to be in for an episode or 2 and then drop immediately and probably never bring it up again. And as an artist myself, I don't like bashing other artists' artwork. I don't like having the boring opinion of, oh, it's bad because it's bad. I like to see why people like it. Maybe it's not for me, but there has to be something, a reason why people like this. From it being shows to movies to music. There's artists that that I think are very talented. I just don't listen to them because it's just not for me. There's artists that people think are really bad, but I've listened to their catalog and gave them an actual try and found out why people like them. There is a very, very small list of artwork that I feel like I just truly dislike and hate, that I can't find a single positive thing about them. And sadly, Rick and Morty the anime is on the top of that list now. So like I said, I do not want to watch this show anymore. I truly just hate it at this point. But I want to make a deal with you, the viewer, because I'm here to entertain you and give you content. That's our whole thing with this channel, right? So here's the deal. I don't want to watch this show, but I know if I did watch it and have to do a freaking follow-up to this show, y'all would probably laugh. But I need to know that y'all want to see that. And if I'm going to put myself through that torture for an actual reason. So I'm going to set up a goal that might be impossible for this channel, but it could be possible as well. If we can get 1,000 likes on this video, I promise to watch the rest of this show, put myself through this torture, and do a part 2 to this, reviewing the whole season. This will probably be the first and only time on my channel that I kind of hope that we don't hit a goal. But if you want to watch something that's actually entertaining and not get a migraine, you can watch one of these 2 videos here. The one on the left is the one that YouTube says you should watch. The one over on the other side is one that I think you would like. So I'll see you later, daddies. Bye.